Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello friends, my name is Luthfiyyah Nursalamah. We are from group 2. So today we will present about principles of language assessment. Okay, now I will explain about practically and reliability. The first one is practically. Practically is like an effective test and its mean first, stays within budgetary limits. The task is not too expensive because that is impractical. The second one can be completed by the test taker within appropriate time constraints. It is impractical to give too long a student who is taking a test such as a student taking a 5 hours language proficiency test. The third one is appropriately utilizes available human resources. Tests that take a lot of time to be evaluated by examiners and go beyond human time limits to take on student work are impractical. The fourth one considers the time and effort involved to both design and score. Tests that are carried out with such a long time and inadequate deadlines or lack of backup preparation will cause problems during the test, such as when the test is carried out too long, there will be less time to evaluate, and if there is a technical error, it will hinder the running of the test, and it can affect the calculation of score that are not in accordance with the system that should be, and it's just not practical. Furthermore, for a test to be practical, first one, administrative details should clearly be established before the test. The second one, students should be able to complete the test reasonable within the set time frame. The third one, all materials and equipment should be ready. The fourth one, the cost of the test should be within budget limits. And the last, the scoring or evaluation system should be feasible in the teacher's time frame. The second one is reliability. A reliability test is consistent and dependable. A number of sources of unreliability may be identified. First, students-related reliability. A test yields unreliable results because of factors beyond the control of the test taker, such as illness, fatigue, a bad day, or no sleep the night before. The second one, radar or scorer reliability. Radar reliability sometimes refers to the consistency of scoring by two or more scorers. Human error, subjectivity, and bias may enter into the scoring process. Inter-radar unreliability occurs when two or more scorers yields inconsistent score of the same test, possible for lack of attention to scoring criteria, inexperience, or inattention. Intra-rater unreliability is because of unclear scoring criteria, fatigue, and bias toward particular good and bad students. The third one is test administration reliability. Unreliability may result from the condition in which the test is administered. For example, is the test of oral comprehension with a tape recorder. When a tape recorder played items, the student sitting next to windows couldn't hear the tape accurately because of the street noise outside the building. And the last is test reliability. If a test is too long, test takers may become fatigued by the time they reach the latter items and hastily respond incorrectly. Test and test administration reliability can be achieved by making sure that all students receive the same quality of input. Part of achieving test reliability depends on the physical context, making sure, for example, that every student has a cleanly photocopied test sheet, sound amplification is clearly audible to everyone in the room, video input is equally visible to all, lighting, temperature, and other classroom conditions are equal and optimal for all students.
Hello everyone, my name is Reza Pahlevi with student number 2019 8010-110, and I will continue the material of principle of language assessments, and it's about validity. Validity is the level to which inferences made from assessment results are appropriate, meaningful, and useful for the purpose of the assessment. It is the most complicated yet the most important principle, and validity can be measured using statistical correlation with other related measures. Validity consists of 5 models. Let's talk one by one. The first is content-related validity. A test is said to have content validity when it actually samples the subject's matter about which conclusions are to be drawn and require the test taker to perform the behavior being measured. For example, speaking ability is tested using speaking performance, not pencil and paper test. It can be identified when we can define the achievement being measured. It can be achieved by making a direct test performance. For example, to test pronunciation, teacher should require the students to pronounce the target words orally. There are 2 questions are used to applying content validity in classroom. First is, are classroom objectives identified and appropriately framed? The objective should include a performance verb, and specific linguistic target. 2. Are lesson objectives presented in the form of test specification? A test should be designed by dividing the objectives into sections, offering students a variety of item types and gives appropriate weight to each section. The next model is criterion-related validity. The extent to which the criterion of the test has actually been reached. It can be demonstrated through a comparison of the result of an assessment with result of some other measure of the same criterion. Criterion-related validity usually falls in 2 categories. The first is concurrent validity. If the test results supported by other concurrent performance beyond assessment, for example, high score in English final exam supported by actual proficiency in English. And 2, predictive validity. To assess or predict the test taker's likelihood of future success. For example, placement tests or admission assessments. The next model is construct-related validity. Construct validity asks, does the test actually touch into the theoretical construct as it has been defined? An informal construct validation of the use of virtually every classroom test is both essential and feasible. For example, the scoring analysis of interview includes pronunciation, fluency, grammatical accuracy, vocabulary used, and sociolinguistic appropriateness. This is the theoretical construct of oral proficiency. Construct validity is a major issue in validating large-scale standardized tests of proficiency. The next model is consequential validity. It includes all the consequences of a test, such as its accuracy is in measuring the intended criteria, its impact on the test taker's preparation, its effect on the learner, and the social consequence of the test interpretation and use. One aspect of consequential validity which draws special attention in the effects of the test preparation courses and manual on performance. The last model is phase validity. Phase validity is the extent to which students view the assessments as fair, relevant, and useful for improving learning. It means that students perceive the test to be valid. It will be perceived valid if it samples the actual content of what the learners has achieved or expect to achieve. Tests with high phase validity has the characteristics such as well-constructed, expected format with familiar tasks, clearly double within the allotted time, and next, clear and uncomplicated test item, and then crystal clear direction, and then tasks that related to student coursework, and last, a difficulty level that present a reasonable challenge. Another praise associated with phase validity is best for best. Teachers can make a test which is best for best by offering students appropriate review and preparation for the test. suggesting strategies what will be beneficial, or structuring the test so that the best students will be modestly challenged and the weaker students will not be awareness. That's all. The next material will be delivered by the next speaker. Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Silmi from Waliatulhaq. My student number is 201908100014. I'm going to explain about authenticity and washback. Next, authenticity. A fourth major principle of language testing is authenticity, a concept that is difficult to define, especially within the art and science of evaluating and designing tests. Authenticity is the degree of correspondence of the characteristics of a given language task to the features of a target language task. It also means a task that is likely to be encountered in the real world. Authenticity can be presented by an authentic test. First, contains language that is as natural as possible. Second, has items that are contextualized rather than isolated. Third, includes meaningful, relevant, and interesting topics. Third, provides some thematic organization to items such as through a storyline or episode. And the last, offer tasks that replicate real-world tasks. Next, washback. In general terms, washback means the effect of testing on teaching and learning. In large-scale assessment, it refers to the effects that tests have on instruction in the terms of how the students prepare for the test, while in the classroom assessment, washback means the beneficial information that washes back to the students in the form of useful diagnosis of strengths and weaknesses. Enhancing washback, the teacher should comment generously and specifically on task performance, respond to as many details as possible, praise strengths, criticize weaknesses constructively, and give strategy hints to improve performance. The teacher should serve classroom tasks as learning device through which washback is achieved. Students' incorrect responses can become windows of insight into further work. Their correct responses need to be praised, especially when they represent accomplishments in a student's interlanguage. Washback enhances a number of basic principles of language acquisition: intrinsic motivation, autonomy, self-confidence, language ego, interlanguage, and strategic investments, among others. One way to enhance washback is to comment generously and specifically on the test performance. Washback implies that students have ready access to the teacher to discuss the feedback and evaluation he or she has given. A task that provides beneficial washback. First, positively influences what and how teachers teach. Second, positively influences what and how learners learn. Third, offers learners a chance to adequately prepare. Fourth, gives learners feedback that enhances their language development. Fifth, more formative in nature than summative. Last, provides conditions for peak performance by the learner. Thank you. Next.
Hey everyone, my name is Desi Rahayu. My student number is 20190810078. Now here I will explain about applying principle to classroom testing. Now, in principle, there are 5 principles of language assessment, namely practicality, reliability, validity, authenticity, and respect. Of the 5 principles, it serves as an excellent foundation for helping teachers evaluate the test to be used in the classroom. However, keep in mind that the order of the statements does not imply an order of priority. The validity, for example, is of course the main principle of the most significant evaluation of judgment. Practicality can be a secondary problem in classroom testing, and for certain tests, it will probably be necessary to put authenticity as the main consideration. So, basically, when everything is done correctly but the validity cannot be proven, All other consideration can be considered useless. Well, here I will give some preparation must be made when applying the 5 principles of language assessment in an exam. Nah, question number 1. Are the test procedures practical? Nah, practicality is determined by teacher and student time, constraints, cost, administrative details, and up to the deadline that occurs before and after exam. As preparation for practical procedure, a practicality checklist is provided as in PPT. In above. Now, question number 2. Is the test itself reliable? Now, reliability of the test administration can be achieved by ensuring that all students receive the same quality of input, both written and written. As a guide, see the checklist in PPT. Now, the checklist serves as a basis for determining whether a test is reliable. Now, question number 3. Can you ensure that reliability? Now, entry assessment is an important assessment. Teachers need to find ways to maintain their focus and energy for the time it takes to assess to the assessment. Can you read the checklist on PPT? Question number 4. Does the procedure demonstrate content validity? Now, for classroom assessment, content validity and criteria are closely related because the objective of lesson or unit is basically an assessment criterion covering that lesson or unit. If you see that the test taker's performance can be fulfilled from the class objective, it is likely that the content validity has been achieved. Can you see checklist content validity in above? Question number 5. Has the impact of the test been carefully accounted for? This question interrogates the concept of consequential validity and the importance of developing assessment procedures to obtain optimal performance by students. Can you see the checklist on PPT? Now, question number 6. Are the test tasks as authentic as possible? Here's an authentic checklist as an evaluation of how authentic the test is in PPT. Question number 7. Does the test offer beneficial feedback to the learner? Here's a checklist to help maximize feedback that was useful in testing. Feedback checklist in PPT. Nah, the checklist above can be used to help teachers prepare as a guide if they want to apply these 5 principles in class tests. Thank you.
Previously, we discussed the 5 principles of language assessment, and now I will explain about the efforts to maximize both practicality and feedback. As teachers who are busy every day, they are often tempted and prefer quick and easy assessment or practical assessment. However, as discussed earlier, practicality is likely to sacrifice feedback and reliability. For more details, this relationship can be described as on the screen. This is a hypothetical graph showing practicality or reliability on one axis and authenticity of feedback on the other. In this graph, 3 types of language assessment are mentioned with the measure of wasing and authenticity as well as their practicality and reliability in the regression line illustration. We can see on the graph that as the technique in wasing and authenticity increases, its practicality and reliability tend to decrease. Conversely, the greater the practicality and reliability, the less likely you are to achieve useful feedback and authenticity. The challenge here for the teacher or assessor is how to change the position of the lines on the graph. This can be accomplished by efforts to push traditional test formats on the chart to the right, toward more feedback and authenticity, and to increase the practicality and reliability of portfolios, journals, and conferences. The relationship depicted in the chart will thus push the regression line into the right-hand corner. And this is a graph of the results of an attempt to maximize both practicality and feedback as I explained earlier. It can be concluded that educators certainly should not just sit quietly and surrender to something that is inevitable like this assessment, because we know that this is one of the important duties of a teacher or educator. And we also know that standard or practical tests are released without feedback and authenticity. With some creativity and effort, the teachers can maximize the assessment between practicality and well-being. And until here, our presentation for the chapter 2. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.